Okay, so we'll move on. The next item is Ordinance 1514, authorizing a lease with the Greater Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce. This is a waiver of first and passage on second reading. And are there any questions of Manager Gora concerning this lease? And do you want to talk?
Yes, I'll give an overview, Madam President. Thank you. As a follow-up to last month's Committee of the Whole meeting where we had the initial discussion with the board, I've worked with the Chamber President in putting together a lease. I'll go through the terms of it, and through any of the discussion, the Chamber President is here, so if you have any questions of her, she'd be more than happy to come answer questions of the board. Basically, it's set up to lease a particular office within the Village Hall. It starts out as a 5-year agreement, which would be through December 31st, 2016, and it can be renewed for up to 7 2-year periods, keeping in mind that there is a termination provision, so that if for any reason in the future that the landlord, being the village, or the village board, would like to terminate it, that you really have that ability with 90 days written notice of the tenant. So when you look at the term of this, you still have the flexibility if there was a reason for termination of the lease. So that is there. The rent would be structured at $150 per month. We looked at what the operating costs would be in the building. We looked at primarily the custodial costs, and then tried to assign a figure per office or per space within the building. Any other extraneous costs associated with being in the building, from custodial supplies to kitchen supplies to you name it. We're not looking or not recommending to turn a profit. We're just looking at to have a pass-through cost and be able to provide a benefit to the businesses in the community by being located in the Village Hall. So this comes out to $1,800 a year. Chamber asked to have that structured for 2 payments a year, one January 15th, the other July 15th. The other thing we looked at is startup costs associated with moving the chamber in the building, such as signage or having any of the computer work that would need to be done. We estimate that figure would not exceed $500. It would probably come below that, but we wanted to have a cushion so that we could say that this is a total pass-through. The chamber requested that that also be split over 2 times to be able to make it affordable for them. So you'll see that the chamber would pay the village $250 on January 15, 2012, and another $250 on July 15, 2012 for costs associated with moving into the premises. We have an escalator built in for future costs of a 5% increase for the lease payment to go into effect January 15th of every year. The chamber would waive the village's membership cost in the chamber. We also have, when we looked at what costs would be incurred, the other factor would be the copier. One of the things we would switch is that anytime the chamber is using the copier, they would input a code. We will require employees to do the same thing, and we will track the costs back to the cost center. So, like as an example, when the copies are made for the village board agenda, that's going to be charged to the elected officials' budget. So it'll be actually help with budgeting purposes to have the specific account codes that these are being charged to our cost centers. Rate of 1 cent per page on black and white copies and 5 cents per page on color copies. The chamber would get use of other rooms within the building. Currently, the chamber's lead group meets in the community room, and we found that that has worked out quite nicely. We've been able to provide a location for them and help service the business community. Some of the other things is we would agree to furnish utilities as part of the rent, which is electricity, water, sewer, and the internet. The tenant, meaning the chamber, would coordinate and pay all costs associated with telephone use. So the way that we would have it structured is they would, coming into the building, they would technically be on our server but not have access to our files, but they would get the internet service through our main server, which is some of the initial costs, the $500 that we've estimated for some startup costs. As far as access to the building, chamber staff, which right now is just 1 person in the executive administrator position, and the chamber president would have access to the premises. We'd have key cards. The chamber president key card would only be able to be used during working hours of the village hall when the village hall was open, so 8 to 4:30. The executive administrator would enter and exit through the staff entrance like other village employees, and would have, if she were to come during off hours, would input a security code. That is written into there because of special events that the chamber holds, such as the partnership that they have with the village on the tree lighting ceremony. The executive administrator might be in here earlier in the day for setup. So it just allows the ability to get from the public part of the building to the staff part of the building where the office is. We basically say in the lease that that key card would not be assignable to anybody else, that it would stay with the person. We have liability insurance coverage in here. We have that this would not be subleased over to anybody else. Indemnification, I've already talked about the termination provision. One of the items the chamber had in there as far as the tax exempt status, they're a 501c6 status. Just some language in there. That's the basic premise of it. One of the village attorneys worked with us on this document, so if there's any particular questions, I know Attorney Anderson is ready to answer questions tonight.
Two comments?
And I'll turn it over to Attorney Anderson.
Excuse me. Just two comments. One is, under Illinois law, leases of public property for whatever reason, under statute, it requires a supermajority of 4/5. So it's effectively 6 of the 7 of you. Marilyn, you do get to vote. Okay. So it will only pass if 6 of you vote in favor of it. The second item is that we did receive late tonight word that from the attorney for the chamber that they might have a few tweaks, non-substantive changes. If that's acceptable to you, what I would suggest is your motion be to approve it, subject to attorney review, so that we can tweak something non-substantive. Those are the two items.
Are there any questions from the board members?
Yeah, I guess just one or two. The tenant's fee for rent, have we thought, could we eliminate that? Or just have like a flat rate, like the first paragraph? Tenant shall pay $150 a month, then $900, then $250. Because a 5% increase every year, the reason they're coming in here is trying to save money. We're going to increase it every year for 5 years. I just think it'd be good to just eliminate that 5%.
It's up to the board. It was just some provision to work in there, noting that this is a very affordable lease payment, and to have some language in there in regards to cost of living or minor increases. I know in speaking with the chamber president, the chamber did not have any issues with it, but if the board wants to eliminate that provision, you can.
Any other comments?
I would like to clarify building access. I missed this discussion at the Cal. I'm a little uncomfortable with having non-village personnel in the village personnel portion of our building, especially after hours. How would we feel about restricting that access to just during hours when staff is present in the building?
If I can comment on the practicality of that, it could create an issue. As an example, chamber starts their meetings, I believe, at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays, and if the executive administrator has a document in their office and they're having a discussion, she would not be able to access her staff, be able to access her office to be able to retrieve the document. There's other items, whether it's Montgomery Fest, in the past Oktoberfest, the tree lighting ceremony, any of the events that serve the public, where if it's going on in a weekend, wouldn't be able to access it. If there's ever any issues in the future where there's a concern where, let's say there's something, let's just say a concern, we're able to track who accesses the building at that point in time, so we can pin it back to any particular person accessing it.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, the Board of Trustees itself doesn't have that access privilege after hours.
The difference is it's a staff office. I know President Michelini, with having her office in the staff portion, has greater access. It's dealing with the access to the staff area. If you want to limit it, I think that, I don't want to put the chamber president on the spot, but that might be something that might not work for the chamber, and we'd have to defer as to whether they would want to proceed forward with this.
I will not vote for it unless the access is during business hours.
Business hours. Any other comments?
I don't think I will then either.
Well, yeah, my thought is if this was just a community group that informally met without a definite purpose, and especially without a definite connection to the village, there's a synergy between the MEDC and Chamber and the village. And for that reason, I understand your concern, but I don't share the security issues because we do have a way to monitor the access. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's a problem, it can certainly be pinned down to a time period.
It's not a concern about theft or damage. There's a lot of very sensitive information that's in the staff area that could be very valuable to someone, or it could be very helpful to someone to have access to. And that's why the staff area is secure. I just think it opens the door to, you don't know whether someone has seen a document that they shouldn't have seen or gained access to information that they shouldn't have had access to.
I guess my thought there would be most everything sensitive, Director Zolfo or Ann, would be locked up. I doubt if things would be left out on desks, especially if it's sensitive information. I don't know. Again, you know, I view this as there's a relationship with the other semi-official bodies, so to speak, that are associated with the village. And I don't share the concern.
Would you guys be okay if the board members had the same access? So all the trustees have the same access as everybody? And then,
It's certainly troublesome to me that the board doesn't have that same privilege.
For what purpose?
what if we did?
Well,
What's the purpose?
Brought that up before.
I would turn the question back the other way. How essential is it that the chamber have after-hours access?
Well, to conduct meetings, I would assume.
Why are...
I mean, I've never felt the need, and I have not had the need personally to come in here after hours, except, you know, to pick up my stuff out of the mail slot, and that's it. I don't need access to any other areas. But if we're looking at, you know, working with either the chamber or ultimately MEDC, or, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in that respect. I mean, there is, again, like I said, a synergy between us, and I don't share the concern.
I see the concern,
Any
but
other comments?
Yeah.
Matt, did you have a comment?
Yeah. My only concern with the after hours is just to be kind of a word of caution. One person in the building at one time is something that we've talked about before, just, you know, be in pairs or try and limit that for sure. One question I was going to ask, which might seem moot at this point, but the $1,800 that we get per year is going into the general fund. Is there any support to putting that into the Historic Preservation Fund? I know that there is a cost associated with it, but at least then we can take this money and put it back into the community. Those are my
Do you
comments.
have a...
It's a policy decision of the board.
Make the decision.
It gives an opportunity, as Trustee Brawley said, to put it back in the community. Up to this point, the HPC, all the projects that Historic Preservation Commission has done have been volunteer-driven. So it would be, I think, recognition to the work that the HPC has done over the years of, and I mean, you could, I know the board has had policy issues with the Settlers Cottage. You could specify that that money not be used towards Settlers Cottage, but it could be used for other HPC costs. I mean, we have volunteers in this building all the time that are donating their time for cataloging historic artifacts. So there's always costs related to that, whether it's software purchase or purchasing artifacts over the internet that have a connection to Montgomery. So that's one option.
And Andy, I cut you off. Do you have something you wanted to add?
no, I was just worried about the security issue of that. I see the security issue.
Well, we do have security cameras, you know.
I know, it's just, then how come we don't have access as trustees then?
For what purpose would you access the Village Hall on the weekends in the staff area? You don't have an office there. You're not running
So look at,
community organization out of there either, so.
look at some water lines or get copies of something that staff has. I came in here today, I couldn't get in, so.
There's a copier in this room.
Yeah,
I know there's one in here, but when I asked for some, I forgot what it was, they says, oh, we're leaving at 4:30. It's like, well, it's like, that's right. Let's not forget it, I'll just pick it up Monday, because I couldn't get in Village Hall. If I'm going to look at the water lines, you can't get in because they're behind Peggy's desk, you know? Or if you want to look at all the community areas, you can't get in because it's by, you know, planner.
A lot of that stuff is on the village website. I guess if it's a concern of security, having one person in the building, that's one issue. If it's that we're giving somebody access that we, the board, doesn't have, that's another issue. But I don't have any problems with it.
We also might consider contributing this monies to improved village server, office server, since they would be participating in that as well. And unless I'm mistaken, we're sorely in need of a more modern server.
It's a possibility. I don't know offhand how much a server runs.
Okay, are there any more questions or discussion?
Could we talk about this at the Cal meeting then? Because it seems like we had a lot of discussion going on.
We're not going to have a meeting till January, and
Wednesday. Oh, forget it.
it's
All right,
Committee
sorry.
of the whole, we don't vote, actually. We'd have to call a special meeting if that were the case.
All right.
I mean, you know, the thing is here, we're talking $1,800. I have no objections whatsoever. If someone wants to split it in half and put half towards historic, half towards the server, I have no qualms about that. I just think we're not talking about a motorcycle club coming in here. This is our Chamber of Commerce, and we've worked well with them over the years. I see no problem. I see some of the concerns, but I don't see a problem with this. Again, it's not a motorcycle club.
I don't see a problem with it, but I guess we'll go ahead and take a vote, and I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Did you want to make it subject to attorney review?
Subject to
Subject to
attorney
the attorney
review.
review.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Keck?
Yes.
Trustee Kazmierek?
No.
Trustee Bond?
No.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Hines?
Nay. Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Brawley, I'm sorry.
Rowley,
That's okay.
yes.
Trustee Brawley?
Mayor, you do have the right
I
to
know,
vote, but not the
I-
obligation.
Pardon me?
You have the right, but you do not have to if you don't wish.
No, I know. No, I would vote in favor of it. So
fails.
we need it fails because we need the 2/5, right?
3/4, which translates to 5.25 people, so it's obviously 6.
6, okay. Okay, so the motion failed.
Can we revisit this tonight, or can we not? Are we not allowed to?
Well, I mean, if you want to follow parliamentary procedure, one of the trustees who was in the prevailing part of the vote, which was, in fact, the no vote in this case, would have the right to make a motion to reconsider. Then that would be voted upon. If the vote is favorable to reconsider it, then you'd be back where you were a moment ago. The other option, of course, is that, and this doesn't apply right now, but there's nothing prohibiting you from putting this lease back on the agenda. It's not like you have to wait a year or something like that. You can put it on the very next agenda if you wish.
I'd like to talk about it further. Well, we can't talk about this year, but we can do it in January,
What comes
Well,
in January?
you can make the motion to reconsider, I just stated.
but not today, right?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, you can
Well,
do that
it's-
for tonight.
No, I'll just,
Okay. Jennifer, do you want to say a few words?
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Johnson, and I'm the current I'm the acting current chamber president. I know there were some questions and concerns, and I know Trustee Bond, you weren't at the committee of the whole meeting when this was discussed, but from a standpoint, from a security standpoint, there would only be 2 key cards that would be issued, and Pam Nagel, who is our current executive administrator, we've gone ahead and filled out the paperwork that any other staff member would need to submit as a part of their employment, which was very thorough from a standpoint with credit checks, background checks, criminal backgrounds. Both Pam and myself did complete that paperwork, which again is passed along to, I believe, the police department to handle. So from that standpoint, security measures, we have adhered to whatever we would need to do from a chamber standpoint, just like what the village employees need to do. I certainly understand your concern and condone the same in our employees, and that it's very positive to make sure that you're never in a building by yourself. But obviously, as your village manager indicated, key codes are tracked, and there would be a specific scenario that would be used for her to enter the building. Confidently, the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head would be some of the events that we actually partnership with. Again, Montgomery Fest, the Village Tree Lighting event. Obviously, we would need access at that point. We could obviously gain access with another village employee to do that. Outside of our village meeting, or I'm sorry, our chamber meetings that are once a month on Wednesday that starts at 4 o'clock, sometimes we do go until 6 or 7 o'clock depending on the items that are on my agenda, and it would just be convenient for her to be able to place the board meeting documents and things back into her office. But other than that, I don't see any issues. This is a 15-hour per week position. She's currently 13 hours. She's wanting to go 15 hours from that standpoint. And I don't see from a chamber standpoint if gaining access to the building only during staff hours is something that's going to hold this back. I think that's very minimal. I think we could work together from a partnership standpoint to move forward with this. It's a great opportunity, and our logo is promoting partnerships for business success. And as Andy shared, we do a lot of things from a partnership standpoint, and we're just looking for this to be a win-win for everybody. And there's a lot of energy from our board moving forward in the hopes that the trustees would approve this tonight. So again, I'm here for any type of questions or concerns you might have, but I just wanted to address the background checks. And that was a suggestion that when we sat down after the trustees had given the village the authority to move forward with this, that was something that I suggested to Manager Guerra. That wasn't something that she came up with. I mean, that's integrity is very important to me from my business standpoint and from representing the Chamber of Commerce here in Montgomery. So, but again, I'm certainly available for any additional questions. We just really think this would be a great way to continue to support our motto, so promoting partnerships for business success. So any other questions any trustees might have?
Are there any questions at this point? And you asked to have a further discussion.
Yeah, well, one question, since we're talking about it, well, this is the board's decision about the 5%. I know I want to
You want to
eliminate that, but
Okay.
I guess we want to talk, well, we'll talk about it later, I guess.
And from a standpoint with that, we recognize that coming forward with the $1,800 per year, honestly, it's very common to see anywhere from 3 to 5% in a lease. And in the discussions that I had, there is an inflation factor that needs to be built into there. It is certainly up to whatever the trustees feel they'd like to do, but we honestly, as a board, did not feel that 5% was out of line compared to our current lease arrangement that we have, or anything that we might move into. That would certainly be within the parameters.
What's that fair if we get rid of the 5%? That'd be a better partnership. We're trying to save you guys some
And
money.
that's on an annual basis, so it equates to about $90 per year after it renews. Just, I've done the math, and just to help you, from that standpoint, so.
With regards to the 5%, I think it's responsible of us to have that in there, because the 18,000 people paid for this building, and they continue to pay for it, so I think us providing you with a fair rent is probably the most responsible thing we can do. So.
And I think from a standpoint, a lot of our chamber members are also obviously residents here in Montgomery and have been very favorable, and think it would just be a great partnership for us to be located here. But again, it's ultimately your decision. Any additional questions, feel free to ask. And
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. How are we being business-friendly in our whole dealings in this chamber when we can't even come to an agreement about our own Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I'm sitting here dumbfounded. I don't know, maybe I missed something, but
If it's over
I
access,
don't get it.
if it's over access to an office, you know, and as it was previously mentioned, anything that's confidential is not left out of an evening. I am very confident, just from being in a business environment of, especially in insurance industry. I'm an independent insurance agent. I have confidential information that I work with on a day-to-day basis. Everything is shredded, everything is locked. That type of information is not left out, and I'm confident that all village employees are given that direction. And we're talking about an office that's located right off of your main public area. Pam would have access in with a key card. She would go into her office, perform her daily functions, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Her current hours are from 8 until 1 on Monday and Wednesday, and from 9 to noon on Friday. We are talking about extending a couple hours to make it 15 for her, and you're talking about Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If there is any variance from that, I've given her direction from moving forward that it just needs to be communicated so that people here understand that she might be in on a Thursday instead of a Friday. But there aren't any hours, you know, that she keeps after hours. And along with our computer system that we have, she'll also be able to access remotely if there is anything. So if what's holding some of you back is just the additional access that she might have, versus what you as trustees have, I think that's something that could be worked on, or, you know, we could certainly make some accommodations on our end. And I would just hate to have to put someone in a situation if we did need to get in for a partnership type event that we're doing, like the village tree lighting. But again, we can do that, and I don't think that would be a problem. So.
Jennifer, I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
How many business members do you represent right now?
We currently have 104 business members, and we have actually brought in probably, I would say, roughly about a dozen new members this year. We are currently actively working together with our business partners in the community, and we have established an ambassador group, which are probably, I want to say, probably around 10 of us are ambassadors, which is a new program that we implemented this year, which was a part of our strategic plan. So the board actively worked on a strategic plan, and we're moving forward with that. And I'm very pleased in how our directors have stepped up and are moving forward with implementing that plan, and just the success that we've seen in just a short amount of time. The ambassadors are meeting on a monthly basis. Then what we do is we basically go out and target specific businesses that we think would be a great fit for the chamber. And obviously, the Village of Montgomery is very unique because we also have industry-based. So we want the village members to understand that if they're at Walmart and if they're choosing a product off of the shelf to support VVS, that we want to keep that business here in Montgomery, and if they have a choice to buy maybe a Dial product, that they might pick that up. So we're also trying to educate the community to understand that we have a lot of industry here that we also need to support to keep them here. So that is our mission, and like I said, our board of directors have done an awesome job, and obviously Alice Sutcliffe started the chamber, and I know with her watching overhead, is very pleased with the direction that we continue to go.
Just to follow up from that, so Jennifer came here tonight representing 104 of our local businesses, and we voted down their contract for a lease based on one person accessing the building occasionally. And I guess I can respect the decision for sure. But I've served on the chamber, and there's golf committee meetings, there's this and that and everything else, and the executive administrator is running around every which way and needs to get into the office that we're going to lease this person. I don't believe that we should handcuff the chamber and not allow access, especially because a lot of the business events happen at different times and odd hours, and if you have to come and get golf signs out of her office and this and that, I would hate for the entire organization to suffer because of this. I would propose that perhaps maybe she notify, would that please the board, if she notified somebody via email or text or phone, the mayor or the manager, that I'm going to be in the office. So at least somebody knows that she is and was there without having to go look up in the system. I kind of feel that might help things. but
Well, we're all
I'm
adults
getting a
and-
head shake of no, that it's not. I think the real issue here is certain people on this board, or the majority apparently, would like to have access, the most access, and then have everybody else a tier below that, so it's unfortunate.
If we were talking about the police station, I think we'd have a whole different spin on this. I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to control the access to the staff area of this building. It falls upon us to manage that. Now, some of us have varying levels of comfort with that. Mine may be more strict. I would entertain this if their access was exactly the same as staff's. When the building's closed, it's closed. But if it's to extend beyond that, I can't support it.
And just to clarify, Trustee Bond, my access is the same as yours as the chamber president,
As staff, not board, as staff.
as the staff, or as trustees, if I'm understanding the hours correctly.
Yeah, and just to address Trustee Bond, for staff, like as an example, having the meeting tonight, I left the building, I came back in, I was able to access the building beyond the normal working hours. I've been here on Saturdays. You'll have other staff members that will access it at night or on weekends if they're working on a particular item. The discussion I had with Jennifer was that the chamber staff person would have similar access to the village staff person, where if you're entering or exiting the building, you're coming in through the staff entrance, you're using the your key card, and if necessary, if you have to deactivate the alarm, you're punching in your code to deactivate the alarm. So we can go any way the board wants if you want to place restrictions on it, but this is a great opportunity to help the chamber, but we defer to the board as to how you want to proceed.
Is there any board member that would like to entertain a motion to reconsider at this time? Or do you still feel the same way? Anybody speak up? Because it is our businesses. Keep that in mind.
You know, another point is that they are working to increase the business, increase our tax base, increase just everything that's going on in the village here, ultimately, which may allow us to lower our tax levy and lower it again and again. And if we could get a big contributor in here, there are communities that have no property taxes, you know, due to some businesses being brought in. And that lady there has got more energy than I've seen in a while. Alice did fine, but new life has been breathed into the chamber, and the people that are in there now are excited, and they're willing to go, and they're chomping at the bit, and I just see no reason whatsoever to hold it back.
So I'll ask one more time. Does anybody want to reconsider and make a motion to reconsider the vote? If we don't, it's, you know, it's going away. I have nothing more I can...
Oh, I think we're just asking for direction then as to whether you don't, the board members who voted against it, whether you do not want the chamber in this building so that the chamber can pursue other alternatives. Their lease goes through the end of this month. As we discussed at last month's Committee of the Whole meeting, we were trying an accelerated process to meet the chamber's timeline to find another home.
Just to be clear, the three individuals that voted in favor for the contract cannot make a motion to reconsider.
Correct. It needs to
So-
be
Correct.
the victors, which in
Right.
this case
With a no vote.
were the no votes.
Right.
I'm disappointed. I see this as the height of hypocrisy. For the discussions that we've had in this room about being business-friendly, and we can't even do this for our own chamber, it aggravates me.
I can see that, but I think you need to be respectful of the deliberation of your peers as well. I see it as a stewardship issue.
I want it on the record.
It's on the record.
Yeah.
There are other ways to be business-friendly than what we're talking about right now.
So I guess I'll ask Jennifer if Pam is limited to what the trustees have as far as access. How much of a handicap, or would this be to you, to your organization?
I think, Mayor, as I'd indicated earlier, we would be very supportive to abide by whatever the trustees felt would be adequate, and we would just have to move forward with that. Again, we're out here promoting businesses, and this is really a win-win for the village to have us here and to get those businesses into this building and into this facility. And the village tree lighting was just an excellent example of how we just continue to grow that event year after year after year. I'm not the only cheerleader that's on my board. I have 9 other cheerleaders, and all of them were very, very anxious to be able to make this move, and they will be extremely disappointed when I share with them the outcome for this evening. But we have to move forward, and we have a strategic plan in place, and we'll do our best to step forward and do what we need to do.
Well, I'm going to jump in and maybe ask the board to reconsider the lease if you want to restrict the particular hours of access, but then also put in a provision that allows the chamber to get out of this lease, so that if the chamber president goes back to her board and the board finds that that is not suitable, and we can have the 2 attorneys work on mutually agreeable language, if you pass it as per before with subject to attorney review, I would ask the board to put that language in there, limiting the time, but giving the chamber the opportunity to back out of the lease if they so choose.
Thank you.
So would the board be agreeable to this?
Can we make that provision in there that they have access from 8 to 5 or whatever our,
Well, that was what,
That's,
yeah.
yeah, but I mean,
what
that's,
it is.
can we put that in the contract then with whatever you recommended?
Whatever whatever your wish is.
If that's how it's going to pass. All right, let's do that. Can we, how do we have to say that then?
Need to make a motion to reconsider.
Make a motion to
Make a motion, reconsider,
Needs to
say,
just
put in
wait
provision.
one step at a time. We need a second on the motion to
Second
reconsider.
on the motion.
Anyone can make the second.
I'll second it.
There's a second, so now
The
take the
second is,
roll
and we'll
on
take
that.
the roll on the reconsideration.
So trustee Kazmierek.
Yeah.
This only puts it back to where we were before. You will have a second chance now to vote on the specifics.
Right,
Okay, yeah.
and the wording, language.
Yes.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Hines. Trustee Brawley.
Yes.
Trustee Keck.
Yes.
Now you're back where you
Okay.
were.
The motion carries, so we're
Okay.
back to square one here.
Clarification on this.
Raleigh?
The access that was in the contract that we failed right now, the administrator would be able to access the building when? Anytime?
8 to 5, or right, whatever.
No, originally.
4:30.
Hold on a second, originally.
Originally, it would be when access was needed, so during, could be during off hours or on weekends,
But it would be 24 hours a day.
essentially,
I
but
mean,
if
the
the board...
card would work.
Yeah, but if the board, we can program the card to be specific hours that the board can define.
Can you divide, okay.
'Cause I would agree that when you actually think about it, that nobody's going to be here at 2 o'clock and nobody needs to be here at 2 o'clock. And that's actually a safety issue.
Sorry, I guess I do have one comment. There are 6 doors with the key card provision. As I was looking at it, the ones that we would be talking about would be there would be 4 in question, the 2 entrances, the back staff entrance, as well as the hallway right here where you enter the staff area. The other doors accessible via key card, the file room and the storage area, I guess would be, we haven't talked about it, but they would not have access to the village file room.
No.
No.
And to clarify, what we were talking about was the staff area. The key card for like the chamber president, or I guess we would go with this, is there's a difference between the public portion of the building and the staff portion of the building. You would need to have the chamber president and the executive administrator be able to have access during off hours to the public part of the building because of their board meetings, especially if you don't want them to have those meetings in the staff part of the building. But they would need access during non-working hours to the public part of the building.
So they could have their meetings right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we'd
Well,
plan.
they have them in the community room.
So can I put that provision in there that they have the same access as the trustees, whether it's weekends?
And we want to to
They-
put,
they
yeah,
put
the
the code in.
language. You want to
I'll
reword
re-
it a little bit?
Again, with the subject to attorney review, we'll try to
With that.
write the intent of what you're saying. And if I understand it correctly, it is, what?
Subject, okay, provision with same access as the trustees, with this provision that attorney review.
8 to 4:30,
Correct?
Don't
yes.
put trust.
Well,
The
Yeah,
hours.
don't put, yeah,
The hours.
8 to 4:30.
I understand. No, it's
No.
beyond 8 to 4, it's access to the building. You have access to
Right.
the building at any time,
yeah,
through either of the entrances.
Through the
During off
public-
hours, during the
Public
public
areas.
areas, you would enter, if it's
Yeah,
during,
anytime.
when the alarm has been set, then you have to enter the code. So I understand, Attorney Anderson, what Trustee Kazmierek is saying.
Just for,
it's not,
He doesn't.
I don't.
and the access to the staff portion would be when?
she understands me now.
That's the
I don't even know
limit.
when our access works.
8 to 4:30.
8 to 4:30. So your board meeting starts up here at 4 o'clock. She's not going to be able to get back into her office.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
that's-
she
Those
would
meetings
just
can
take...
go from an
so she
hour,
would just-
2 hours, 3 hours.
She's going to have to
Correct. So if
character-
we don't finish until 7 o'clock that evening, we'll be in a public part of the village hall, so we'll be able to leave, but then Pam will just go ahead and take everything from that board meeting with her, and we'll just bring it in the next time that she reports to work
Yeah.
on Friday then.
Yeah,
She'll have to have all of her stuff.
Correct. Correct.
right. So are we in agreement now? Do you want to make the motion?
Can I make a motion, we approve ordinance 1514 with the provisions set by Attorney Anderson?
Can we
What?
still have discussion?
24/7.
24/7.
Just kidding.
I had a comment I'd like to add before we, can we include in our agreement an enforcement provision for this access concept?
What do you want that to be?
Well, I think we should decide that, but if we've talked about this for long enough now that it needs to be pretty specific in the agreement, and there needs to be some provision for what happens if that access is not honored.
It's covered in the lease by violation of terms of the agreement, I
I mean, are
believe.
you looking for something more specific than that?
And the key card is
That may
really
be
the
a suitable-
Well, yeah, the key cards can be programmed anyway to allow access to certain areas at certain times.
Just to build on what you said, Trustee Bond, under Section 15 termination, if tenant breaches any of the provisions of this lease or abandons or vacates the premises, landlord may declare this lease terminated upon 30 days written notice to the tenant. In addition, landlord may, for any reason in its sole discretion, declare this lease terminated upon 90 days written notice to tenant. You have the hook.
Okay.
Okay.
And can we add the provision that the chamber could back out of
Could
this if their
back
board
out
doesn't
if
agree?
this isn't agreeable to their board.
Yeah, add that too.
You're going to add that on to your motion.
Yeah, add that onto the motion. I gotta redo the motion again?
No, you
Thanks.
don't need to.
Thanks.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second?
Okay. Moved and seconded. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Kazmierek.
Yay.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Hines.
Yay.
Trustee Brawley.
Yes.
Trustee Keck.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
You do have the